Open up that Crystal Pepsi and get comfortable.
This is Dope Nostalgia.
So good to have you along for the ride into episode 133 of Dope Nostalgia Podcast. And I am your host, Naomi. It's always a pleasure to be here bringing this show to you. It gives me so much joy. Another amazing interview that we got, and it blows my mind every time someone says yes to coming on the show because it's just always become bigger than what I ever imagined. Another great band that had a huge one-hit wonder called Deadeye Dick. And the song you might have heard from them was on the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack called New Age Girl. And that was the biggest smash hit for them. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of Deadeye Dick, straight from Wikipedia. And then we're going to talk to Mark Miller, one of the members of Deadeye Dick. Wikipedia moment. Deadeye Dick was an American alternative rock trio that was formed in New Orleans, Louisiana. The band, which consisted of vocalist and guitarist Caleb Gilliott, bassist Mark Adam Miller, and drummer Billy Landry, was formed in 1991 and took their name from the Kurt Vonnegut novel of the same name. The group built up a loyal following touring the Southeast. They self-produced their first album even though they still had not landed a record deal. A song titled New Age Girl from the self-published record became popular regionally and earned airplay in New Orleans and Atlanta. After receiving this airplay, the band landed a record deal with the independent label Ichiban Records. Ichiban released the group's debut album A Different Story in 1994. After its release, the song New Age Girl was selected for inclusion on the Dumb and Dumber feature film soundtrack. The publicity from the film caused the song to become a national hit, peaking at number 27 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March 1995. The band released their second album, Whirl, in 1995 as well. So then Deadeye Dick later disbanded. Caleb and Mark continue to remain active in the local New Orleans music scene as well as producers. Mark took some time out of his schedule to come and chat with us, and I couldn't be happier about it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dope Nostalgia, Mark Adam Miller. Hi there, Mark.
Naomi, I think I was testing my video and I think you were just joining it.
I'm good. Thank you so much now for giving me some time today to chat with you about the group and what you guys have been up to.
Oh, of course. It's funny because just as I was logging off, I was going to go get prepared. I saw your face pop up. I was like, I think I just hung up on her. That was rude. Did you see
no
me?
worries. Yeah, it popped up for like 2 seconds, but it's no worries because I was in here.
Logging out on it, so
I was in here early anyway.
And where are you?
I'm in Edmonton, Canada. So
Nice.
like West Coast ish.
Yeah.
Still about 8-hour drive from the coast, but yeah.
Still a boat?
Still a boat. Yeah. I said it, didn't I? I
So
bet
you're
I
the
did.
Vancouver side.
Yeah, west side of Canada. So, and where are you right now?
I'm actually just outside of New Orleans. Caleb's going to be joining us in a few minutes, I'm assuming, but we're both in New Orleans. We've been here for ever,
Oh, excellent. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Have you been down here?
I've never been down there. No, it's like on the list of places to visit for me. I'm actually leaving for San Francisco on Sunday for the first time.
For fun or work?
Fun. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
I was there a few weeks ago and that was my first time there since actually we were touring. And oh my God, I just love that city. It's incredible.
I can't wait.
Amazing place. Are you going with family, friends? Are you is it your full downtime?
Friends. We're actually going down for a concert, so it's gonna be good. It's
Good to go see.
New Kids, En Vogue, Salt and Peppa, and Rick Astley.
They just played New Orleans last week. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's talk about your 90s nostalgia show, hey?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. So someone told me they're like, there's like, are you going to the show tonight? I didn't know they were playing. And they were like, they were from out of town and they were like, oh, we're going to a show at some club. I'm like, is it Tipitina's or is it House of Blues? And they're like, no, it's like New Kids and Salt and Pepper. I was like, yeah, you're not going to a club, you're going to an arena.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, That sounds right. That sounds right. Of course, it doesn't sell out. So
Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm happy to see these guys all still fill an arena. Gives
I
me
know.
some joy.
And I love these package tours that are happening right now. Like Rick Springfield's coming down with Def Leppard. I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'm in, There's
Really?
all and Journey, I think they're all putting these great package tours together. And
Mhm.
I mean, to get people out of the house, everyone wants to go, but if you're going to spend $100 on the concert tickets, you need 3 hours of really killer shit. So, I think that's the packages that are coming out, and it's awesome.
It makes sense to do it
It
this way.
does. I mean,
We've
unless
got
you're Foo Fighters, then you can sell out any arena in the world, but we're
we
not
have
there.
we have in our stadium here in Edmonton this summer, we have Def Leppard, Poison, Motley Crue, and Joan Jett as a package. So
I think they're
I'll be
doing
there.
that same package down here.
Yeah, I'll see Def Leppard anytime I can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I saw them probably for that 2 years of COVID kind of changes all time, but
Yeah.
probably 4 years ago. And oh my God, they sounded like it was 1985, 87 again. They sounded fantastic,
I don't even, if I recall the last time I saw them, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I don't even think that they dropped the keys in the songs for Joe at all, even though they all sing.
It didn't sound like it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm always on the lookout for that. And
Just-
it's not as a deferential point, but it's just like, okay, you're 60 now,
Yeah.
You can't sing like you were 19, but
Exactly. And the thing is, I don't judge about it either. Like it's just
care.
life.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to
Here's
sit
the key
around
to the songs in it. It's a great song.
and just between me and you, poor John
Yeah.
Bon Jovi, like they just did a tour and all he's getting is flack for his voice.
Saw a headline on that. What do you hear? I only saw one brief thing. What are you hearing? Just he's not hitting it.
He's not hitting it. And he's tuning down more than like a half step. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But, I feel bad for him. I kind of think that maybe he should hang it up, but it's kind of a hard thing to think of John Bon Jovi retiring. It just is. I don't know.
Especially when you look as good as he does at like what he's probably 60, 63.
He just
60.
turned 60.
Yeah. I hope I look like that at 60. My God.
Yeah.
Insane.
The only thing that changed is he stopped dyeing his hair.
I know. Yeah. We're all going to do that, right? In fact, I'm running straight over to Walgreens to get some hair dye after we leave here. So,
I know I'm going to be dyeing my hair as long as I can.
With radio music, everything. You look very young to know who the hell we are, first of all.
I'm 43. So
okay, well, there you go. You look 30. So
thank you.
You got the Bon Jovi thing going.
I swear there's no filters on here. Not too many anyway. Right. Well, my background is just like having grown up and like being educated in all the music I loved throughout the 90s. I ended up becoming a rock singer for a long period of time. I ended up learning music production, taking school for it. And then I just had the idea that why don't we do a podcast like this where we find out what people went through during that time and what they're doing now. Because there's got to be an equal focus on that.
My wife, I've been married for forever, and she's amazing. And she always jokes. She's like, this whole behind the music, the VH1 thing that used to be like, I used to watch every single one of those. She's like, I'm sorry to tell you, but y'all are never going to be on behind the music because y'all were like the straightest, coolest band out there. You never got arrested. You never threw anything through hotel windows. She's like, I can write a tell-all pamphlet front and back on all the mischief you got into. I was like, well, there's something to be said for that. So.
Wow. Like then
I love the backstories though. I really do.
That's awesome. It doesn't have to be like full of mischief and scandal.
Right.
Yeah. It's still good stories. Well, thank you so much. This is Mark from Deadeye Dick, who's joining me today. Caleb might be jumping in soon, but welcome to Dope Nostalgia. And where are you guys based out of? To start with?
First of all, Naomi, thank you for having us. We're in New Orleans. We've always been here. That was kind of our hometown, our adopted hometown for me. But we've been here for so long now. We're from here, so we toured everything we did. We were based in New Orleans. We never left.
That's such a great place to be from. Where do you recommend people to visit there? Well, like obviously people want to go down to like the French Quarter and all of that, but Do you have any hidden gems that people should visit when they're down there?
I do. And actually, my perfect time of year to be in New Orleans is Jazz Fest, which is always the last weekend of April, first weekend of May. And it just happened for the first time, obviously in a couple of years since COVID, but anytime you're in town for that, every restaurant is at their best, even though they're there anyway. But there's a little place uptown at the end of St. Charles called Jacquemo's. And that gets my vote for the greatest restaurant in the city. It's unlike anything you'll ever see. The chef's name is Jacques, who at some point walks around with a bourbon bottle in his boxers and a shirt after cooking all night, and will sit at your table and say, "So where are you from? How's the food?" and he does this almost every night. So it's a pure New Orleans cultural exchange. You'll enjoy it.
No kidding. That's
And
Jacques
if you
and
make it
Moe's.
down here, I'll meet you there and I'll buy you dinner. How about that?
Hey, I'm in.
All right.
Can't say no to that. Sounds fun. I was going to say, now you guys probably get asked this all the time, so I'm going to keep it brief on this one. The band's inception, how did you all meet?
So Caleb and I had a band basically before Deadeye Dick came into being. We had actually had a couple together, and he and I just immediately creatively just absolutely just fell in love. And we were writing so much, and we ended up getting out of a couple bands, and then we were an acoustic duo for about a year. And then a mutual friend of ours said, "Hey, you got to meet this guy, Billy." We were looking for a drummer actively, but we were very arrogant and we had very high standards. So I said, "You got to meet this guy, Billy Landry. I think it'd be perfect for you." And the very first time we played with Billy, it was just magic. So literally, I felt like he was auditioning us as much as anything else. And within 30 seconds, we were officially the band. And in 2 weeks later, believe it or not, 2 weeks later, we recorded that entire first record.
Oh,
Window, eye to eye with Billy, cueing him on the breaks because he had only heard some of the songs 3 or 4 times. We had played a couple shows, and that's kind of an attest to Billy's professionalism and insane drumming technique. He's just 4 on the floor. He's just absolutely one of the greatest drummers I've ever played with. So once that happened, we got a great record together, and then everything kind of took off.
no kidding. That is fast work.
Of course, after 4 years of struggling to find the right fit, but once you find it, once that chemistry hits in the room, I think most of the bands who have made whatever level of success they have, and we had a minor level of success and a major level of success, depending on your vision of where you're sitting. But I think if you talk to anybody, they'll realize maybe the songs you didn't know there was going to be a giant hit, but you knew the people in the room were exactly who you needed to be with. Mm-hmm. And when you find that outside of my marriage to my wife, it's just like, that's kind of a really unique moment. It's a beautiful thing to find. So we're very lucky, all 3 of us.
Absolutely. And not only that, but the 3 of you also have to have the same goals for it to work.
Yeah. And Naomi, I mean, honestly, number 1 was we had to treat it like a business. And that was all. We had the creative side and we had the business side. And that was always rule number 1. So we were trying to figure out, of course, this is back before we got signed in 94. So it was get on the road, become a great band, try to build a following. We live in one of the greatest areas of America where within 500 miles, you can play to 600 clubs. So we stayed on the road as much as we could, and that really made us a great live band. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, obviously, it's very different, but once we realized that we were all in for the business and we were in for the creative, and those 2 meshed, then we made decisions based on that. And with a lot of luck and some great people who are our champions, we had a run. It was great.
When you're speaking of like that time too, when you're being a business and all, were you guys already like learning about the internet, and were you getting involved in it and using it at all to promote yourself at that point yet?
Nope.
No.
In fact, I'll say it didn't exist in our world because I know it existed. But in fact, the very first time we went out on tour, we had a bag phone that was, we call it the brick. It was literally as big as a laptop. And when we bought the phone, the guy told us, "Don't ever make a phone call with this on your lap if you ever want to have children." So that's where we were in the technological breakthrough of things. So rule number one is bag phone stays on the floor. So, but you know,
Like
there
having
was
a
no
nuclear
internet.
device or something.
Right. There was no for all intents and purposes, there was no internet. Obviously MP3s hadn't even come out, so there wasn't Napster that had kind of changed the world. So we were right on that cusp, which looking back now, honestly, is pretty fun to look at because it really was a whole different world, the way we had to make it and accept it and join it and love it and appreciate it and share it, because we saw every band on the way up. We saw the same bands that we were on the way down, or they were on the way up. And there was this community of bands that were all touring at the same time, because we came up with, in '94, when we really started touring, we were already good friends with Hootie and the Blowfish guys. They were out of South Carolina. We would swap shows. Rob Thomas had a band before called Matchbox 20 called Tabitha's Secret. And Tabitha's Secret did a whole Florida tour with us for about 5 or 7 shows, opening for us. And then he and one other person left, I believe, and became Matchbox 20. And then there's, Edwin McCain was getting out there, and all these bands, Collective Soul. We had our a release party with them in New Orleans at Tipitina's. We both put out our first single on the same day. And then flash forward to probably 7 years ago, we did a South by Southwest show, and they paired us up with Collective Soul again. So we were like, oh my God, this is a full circle. But the community back then in '94, '95, when everything was really starting to jettison for us, was really amazing. And you were out on the road, in hotels, in vans and buses, and you saw everyone around. We played with the Smithereens probably 20 times. And then Pat the lead singer of the Smithereens ended up moving to New Orleans, and we became friends 10 years later. So it's the circle of life, so to speak, of the 90s music is really unique. And just, I'm so grateful we were in that moment of time and doing what we were doing.
Well, it's delightful to know that you guys all had a common bond, and a lot of you toured together and knew each other. It makes me wonder too, now I know the grunge era had come in a bit before that, and I don't really know if it was going away yet at that time or not. Did you feel any after effects, you or the other bands, from the grunge era into what you guys were doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, we felt everything, because I think Nirvana hit in '93, maybe 92.
I think '92 is when Nevermind came out.
Okay, so yeah. And the moment that came out, grunge was out, right? But you've heard the song and maybe some of the other albums we've done, but we were a British pop band. This is really what we were. We wanted to be the Beatles, not as far as global success, but one of our main musical inspirations was the Beatles, among 20 others. So when we had already made our record, in '92, actually, the day probably that Nevermind came out, we had made this bright British pop record. And once we got out in '94, we were in this flood of Pearl Jam, who I adore, Nirvana, who was fantastic, Stone Temple Pilots, one of the greatest bands on the planet. So we were, and Green Day. So we played festivals with a lot of grunge bands, and we fit, ironically, musically. I don't know why, but we would always share a dressing room backstage. We shared a dressing room with the Lemonheads and Bush and Green Day and all these bands. And as different as we were, when I listened to like Billy Joe Armstrong, the melodies he writes, who is one of my favorite melodic songwriters on the planet, if you listen to his melodies, if you take away the incredibly great sounding guitars, you're left with really old school, amazing Beatles era melodies that just rock your head. And that's really what we were going for as well. So whether or not you turn the distortion on your guitar up or down really didn't matter to us or any of these bands, because we were all out there trying to write great pop songs. And then, whatever you want to label it from there, is none of us cared. Grunge, pop, whatever it was. We were talking about New Kids on the Block. If it's a good song, it's a good song. And if you're a great live band, you're a great live band. And that's what we just dove into. And that was our mantra every single day. Play the songs, enjoy them, love the people you're with, become a great band, and deliver it. And if you can do all those things, then everything else is really kind of out of your control, you know?
Amen. I mean, it all boils down to a melody and a lyric, and then whatever you do behind it is what classifies it in any type of genre anyways. So
100%. And you look at a
just
guy
have
like
fun with it.
Michael Bublé, who is one of my favorites. He's not this Frank Sinatra where he's doing the very accurate remakes of old songs, but he'll take old songs and do them like he does a bunch of Beatles songs. He does one of the Beatles songs he does, anyway, he does it big band style, and he absolutely kills it. I'm like, and it's exactly what you just said, song, melody, however you're translating it, however you're redefining it, if you're true to yourself about what you want to do, then man, it's a great song. A great song is a great song.
Exactly. Yeah. And those are the ones that stand the test of time as well. And
Yeah,
it's nice to know that now here we are this many years later, and we're still hearing your song on the airwaves. We still hear New Age Girl all the time.
Should I send an apology letter for that, or is that a good thing?
No. No. And anytime I talk about it, the first thing they say is, "Oh, but you sure like the bone." Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
How many times in your life do people come up to you and say that?
A lot. And we also get well, first of all, I don't want, I'm being falsely, the self-deprecation. No one could be more proud of what we did and the songs we wrote, and even including that one, we love it. And just to see a crowd, respond to it is like not every band dreams of that. So anyone who tells you I didn't want to be a big band, well, then you say, well, you shouldn't have signed a record contract. So we're extraordinarily proud of everything we did. Yes. So to the catchphrase, we got a lot of girls around the world coming up with their driver's license, and they were actually legally named Mary Moon. So that happened a lot. And
what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Believe it or not. And then we did get the catchphrase thrown a lot. One of my favorites is, we're at a record signing, and I want to say it's Flint, Michigan. It's somewhere in January. It's 20 below. We had to put a cigarette lighter up to the padlock because the padlock steel had shrunk and we couldn't get a key into it. So this is how cold it is. And we go into this record signing store, and it's packed, and it's, the great thing about going to Lima, Ohio in January is you kind of own the town because there's nothing else going on there. So it's kind of like going to Canada in the winter. So we go into this place and it's packed, and we're so grateful for the people showing up, and we're signing autographs. And this one woman comes up, probably about our age at the time, and she has this little 5-6-year-old girl, and she says, I love your song, and my daughter loves your song. And the daughter says, what does it mean? She don't eat meat, but she sure like the bone. And I'm thinking, 5-year-old. And we said, well, she's a vegetarian, but she still really loves ribs. And mom looks at me and gives me a big wink. And the girl goes, oh, of course, that's so awesome. I'm like, dodged a bullet with a 5-year-old.
I don't even think I knew what it was talking about then. So, wow. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, as I look back on that, on the lyrics, obviously that's the lyric that stands out, and it is sexual, and we own it, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, if you really look at the lyrics of the song, in 94, it was a song that was about massive female empowerment. And it was about a woman who lives her life the way she wants to live it. She is loving the planet and doesn't care if you make fun of her. So, and actually I was having a conversation about it maybe a few years ago, and they were like, it's kind of a interesting song. I was like, it's really, when you get down to it, it's kind of cool that we unknowingly I was brought up by women, and my mom and her sisters were phenomenal. So I'm the product of a female household. And, but to look at that, 30 years later and say, if you really look into it, it's kind of a cool female empowerment. And I have a 13-year-old daughter now. So I can say, if, she's heard the song, she loves the song, but if you forget the catchphrase and you look at it, it's actually, there's nothing, it's about owning your sexuality, not with my 13-year-old, but with adult women. It's being who you are, owning your sexuality, owning your support staff, owning your confidence, and getting out there. If we put a little joke at the end of the course, then, that's what we did. So, oh well,
It worked out perfectly.
it did.
And it's a great line, and the whole thing is true. And I think it really resonates with people strongly, especially to this day.
I've got a new age girl. Tell us what she's like. Environmentalist girl. Does she ride a bike? She has a crystal necklace. She spends a lot of cash. Well, her vibes are rather reckless. She's heading for a crash. Or her flowing skirt is blowing in a transcendental wind, and she wonders without knowing, where did we begin? Mary Moon. She's a vegetarian. Mary Moon, Mary Moon. Mary Moon will outlive all the septuagenarians. Mary Moon, Mary Moon. Oh, she loves me so she hates to be alone. She don't eat meat, but she sure like the bone.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Dope Nostalgia listeners, I love you, and I thank you so much for being a part of this show and its success over the last 2 years. We have what's called Patreon for those who want to support the show financially. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a subscriber and get bonus content, early podcast release, all kinds of cool behind-the-scenes stuff, and more. There's different tiers of membership starting at only $1 a month. And we even have some special merch for you guys who are in it for the long run. So please join our Patreon. It's at www.patreon.com/dope nostalgia.
It's a conspiracy.
It's a Conspiracy is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network and happily powered by ATB.
We are a bi-weekly podcast that aims to discuss selected conspiracy theories, alternative accounts, legends, myths, and more without coloring the topic with our conversation, until the very end of the episode.
We also feature beer reviews, lame jokes, bad puns, far too many 80s movies references, geek culture, and general nerdery.
Our real aim is for fun, inclusive content that doesn't take itself too seriously.
You don't have to be blisteringly paranoid of mind control to enjoy a chin wag with your old pals, Greg, Charlie, Andrew, the Irish Madman, and our podcast puppies, Kylo and Ren.
It's a Conspiracy is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network powered by ATB.
Hey, Joey, I got some stuff you just gotta try. What is it? Pot. You know, marijuana. Oh, well, I don't know. What are you, chicken?
Joey's in a jam. What should he do? Kate.
Get a teacher.
Excellent. Get a pizza. Get real.
Get out of there.
You got it. Let's see if Joey's that smart.
I'm not chicken. You're a turkey.
He's right. Drug dealers are dorks. Don't even talk to them. Cowabunga!
Did you go into writing it for the album, or how did the whole Dumb and Dumber soundtrack part of it come along into play?
Yeah, so the two parts of that are the writing and then Dumb and Dumber. So the writing part of it was when Caleb and I first got together, he gave me a cassette of 4 or 5 songs he had written that he wanted my opinion. Hey, this is me as a songwriter, if you like it. So I learned all those 4 songs and I fell in love with them and they're fantastic. And then I flipped over the tape and it just said NG on the back. And he was like, don't worry about any of that stuff. So I played that on the back of the tape. And it was like a really crude recording of guitar riffs and some lyrics and the melody over it. It wasn't really fully formed, but immediately, like hopefully the first time you heard it, I was like, wait a minute, this is so, just the riff alone is awesome. So I told Caleb, I was like, this is a great beginning of a song, man. You know, this needs to be finished. So it was. The way Dumb and Dumber happened was the song was already peaking on the charts in America, and we had been to Europe already twice, I think. And then goes back to that dumb luck of you got to have your ducks in a row and be prepared when opportunity comes. Is the Farrelly brothers from Dumb and Dumber, who wrote and directed it, called our agent and said, we love the song. We have a Jim Carrey movie that is totally tongue-in-cheek the whole time. We'd love to use a song. Is this okay? And we were like, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. And we were like, high-fiving everyone who would within a block of us, because Jim Carrey at that point had just done The Mask, and I don't think he had really broken out. So, but we were all fans of his. Oh, he had done Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, and so it fit perfectly. It fit the movie perfectly. It fit the timing perfectly. So when the song had already peaked, it actually came down, and we got a whole second life all the way back up the charts with it, which was great for us. And we've got the Dumb and Dumber records up here to prove it. So,
I saw. That's so cool.
Gave us another little run on it. So
fantastic. And did you get a chance to meet the cast or anything crazy like that?
We were going to, and if fate had been different, we would have. We were invited to the Dumb and Dumber premiere of the movie in New York, and Jim Carrey was obviously be there. The Farrelly brothers would be there, and we already had. It was around Christmas. It was right before Christmas. We had a Christmas show booked. You're gonna love this. It was Deadeye Dick, the Go-Go's, and Boys to Men. So
wow, diverse.
There's a lot to unpack there. First, the Go-Go's. Oh my God. I mean, I was in love.
Yeah.
But whoever put together those three bands was either genius or just really high. I'm not sure which, but it turned out to be a really fantastic show that we played.
For sure.
And it was like in West Virginia, like in the middle of West Virginia before Christmas. It was crazy. So we didn't get to go to the thing, but we had an incredible experience watching the Go-Go's and Boys to Men. So
no kidding. And they're both incredible artists too, just as much as wow.
And what's funny is whenever I look back and whenever we get together with the guys and we'll have them, like I live out in the country, so we'll have campfires and everyone brings guitars and all our friends bring guitars and we'll play for 4 hours and drink and eat and have crawfish boiled. But whenever we start talking about these days, which inevitably we do, and when we laugh till our stomachs hurt, but what pops in mind is not what we did, but with whom we got to do it. Like we'll name all the bands we got to play with, because these are all, if in our heyday we got to open for the Police or U2, which are my two bands of all time, that would be worth everything in the world for what you did. So we go through this list of these bands we either played, opened for us, did festivals with. And that's kind of full circle back to our community of knowing that was the moment of time where we existed. And it's so different now that I wouldn't trade those days, that time frame for anything, because the people we got to play against, with, after, before, which just, I have some old festival posters that we played and I'm looking at them, I was like, oh my God, how did we make this list? But we did, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm very proud of it,
I'm glad you kept those types of things. It's nice to have that memorabilia.
I have boxes and crates, and then my mom has boxes and crates, and then my wife has boxes. So
nice.
Storage unit at some point.
So besides that one concert with the amazing lineup, what is one of your other most memorable performances that stand out?
We had some insane ones. I mean, all the festivals, all the giant festivals stand out a lot because, you're walking out on stage into 45 to 70,000 people. The first time we ever played Jazz Fest, which we mentioned earlier, we walked out on the big stage in our hometown and there was 65,000 people and the governor and his wife and everyone, all the politicians and all the celebrities, are down front. And to feel your hometown just really literally blow your hair back and you feel your shirt move. There's nothing like that because it's your hometown.
Yeah.
The other great experience we had, which is more funny than anything, is we shared, we played the first festival in New Orleans called Zephyr Fest, and we got awarded our first gold records on stage at that festival in New Orleans. And we were sharing a trailer with the Lemonheads and Bush. And I stayed out of the trailer because as soon as you opened the door, it was just a fog machine in there because it was so much dope that was just wading out of the door. I was like, until we're done with the show, I'm going to stay out of the dressing room, So, but it was kind of one of those funny things, going to the restroom, and then Gavin, and then who's the guy from Lemonheads walks up, and then you're
Evan
sitting.
Dando.
Evan
right?
Dando,
Yeah.
And they're friends. And then Mila is, at that point, I think Evan was dating Mila. And so you're at 3 urinals and you look down and you look up, fortunately, you look up, and next to you, you're like, what the hell's going on? How did I get dropped into this world? And what a great celebrity urinal event this is going on here. So.
Yeah. No, what a meeting. I swear. Yeah, it must be moments where you were just like, I can't believe it. This is my life right now.
Yeah. And those are the moments you remember. I mean, you remember the crowds, and you actually, believe it or not, you remember faces in the crowds too. But, you remember like the 5-year-old in the record store. And I remember the letters we would get on stage afterwards from like a 9-year-old or from like a 16-year-old who would say, you're my favorite band or whatever. And I remember when I was that age in my teens, for me, and I'm going through this with my daughter who's 13 right now, music was absolutely everything to me.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if I was in my room, there was music on. If I was out in the living room, there's music on. So I knew all my favorite bands, and they shaped me and they warped me and they turned me into exactly who is. And the reason I got into music was the Police and U2. The reason I started listening to music was Motown and big band, and James Taylor and Elton John and Billy Joel in the 70s when I was super young. And then imagine playing a show and afterwards someone came and was like, y'all are really one of my favorite bands. Y'all are so much fun. And I've listened to music for the last whatever years. And if you can't take a step back and say, I'm just grateful. If you can't grab that moment, then I think you've missed the whole bus on the whole thing, because that's really that when that comes full circle, and you're not everyone's favorite band, and there are half the people in this world who cannot stand the song New Age Girl. That's fine with me, because the people who do love it, and I'm proud of what we did. And I remember bands that I just lived for growing up. And if you can have one moment from someone saying, hey, y'all were really good, even just that was fun. You don't need to be their favorite band, but for them to remember you and take the time to come up and say, hey, y'all were awesome. Just want to shake your hand. Just want to give you a high five. It's the little things in life back then and now that really matter. And that's the things you remember.
Gratitude. That is
absolutely
the word.
Every day. Every day. When you lose that, it's all over, right?
Amen. I was going to say, now going into where we're at now, we're kind of coming out of this pandemic era. Now, what current projects have you guys started to do now? And what are the goals that lie ahead?
It's more, actually, it's funny because 2 months ago, we had a reunion, which we do about every 8 years. And we always do in New Orleans. And all of our old friends, we either do it at House of Blues or Tipitina's or some big clubs. We did one on the North Shore, which is kind of outside New Orleans for the first time. But that, we hadn't played together in 8 years. So we had 2 or 3 rehearsals. And that's about all it took. Actually, I think after the first or second rehearsal, we were like, all right, we can do this. And we played for 2.5 hours. We played so long and so much. And it was absolutely perfect. It was just everything, because we're now older. And the best part about it is we didn't have to break down our gear and put it in a van and drive to another show.
Yeah.
Now we can all go out to a really cool dinner. Let's go get a midnight breakfast somewhere. Wasn't this amazing? It feels so good to be back on stage with y'all. Yeah. And there was no expectations, We had a lot of people show up, a lot of people we haven't seen in forever. So as far as the band goes, really, we just do reunions every now and then. Caleb and I are very much still into music. I'm actually in my home studio right now. I'll do more soundtrack stuff. I actually spent a lot of time in Nashville. I put out a country record probably 8 or 10 years ago now.
Wow.
So I became a songwriter in Nashville for about 4 years and fell in love with songwriting all over again. And it was just fantastic. I still do that a lot. I still write a lot, either with artists or on my own. I'll record a lot at the home studio, but now I'm listening to bands that are like 21 Pilots when they came out, like my head exploded. And so I started learning some of their chord changes. I'm like, this is the Beatles Rubber Soul and Revolver era chord changes. And that just proves to me that a good song, a good melody, a structure stands up over decades, because those guys are fantastic. Muse is one of my favorite bands on the planet. So over the last 10 years, I've been finding new favorite bands that just blow my socks off. And so immediately, and it's funny, I'll take my daughter to school in the morning and she'll put on whatever, the Sirius radio, TikTok radio, and then, hits and whatever. And it's songs I've never heard. But after about a week or two, I'm taking pictures of the song that's on the radio, because I want to come home, I want to pull it up in the studio and listen to their production, and listen to chord changes and listen to what they're doing. And it's really inspiring to sit back down and hit record and just see what comes out. So I have no plans. I mean, I put out stuff every now and then. I was actually going to put out a couple singles this summer because they're kind of fun summer songs, but there's no big golden plan to have another career run. And when you take away, kind of like a reunion, when you take away that pressure, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun to just record and write songs with Caleb, and have Caleb come over and do this, this vocal or do this guitar part, and getting to a point where you don't expect anything and you're not relying on it to provide or to buy a house for you, that's a pretty great place to be. My daughter's texting me, sorry.
Oh, that's cool. No worries. No, and I'm so glad to know that you guys are in that place right now. It's a good space to be in. And it's just been so fantastic learning all about your history and what's going on. And we'll make sure to keep following you and update our listeners with any new news of stuff you're putting out. It would be awesome.
Please do. And I think I have a contact for you. So anytime you're in New Orleans, seriously, call me up and I'll meet you at Jacquemo's. It'll be a great day.
Oh, that'd be so amazing. It's on the list. It might take me a while to get there, but I'll get there.
Anytime.
Mark, it's been a pleasure. And thank you for your time on Dope Nostalgia today.
My pleasure too. I love the website. I love the podcast. It's going to be awesome. Thank you for including us. Appreciate it.
I feel in my head, I feel in my tiny heart. And when the world is built, I'm sure that it will blow up. Yeah! The way the world is built, I'm sure that it is killing me. This little horror show is barely even thrilling me. Somebody's talking to me. It sounds like the perfect family. Somebody's staring at me. It looks like the perfect
Hey kids, put down that Tamagotchi and listen for a second. You can follow us on Twitter at NostalgiaDope, Instagram at dope_nostalgia. Visit our website at www.dopenostalgia.com or pick up the phone and call us at 780-851-8785.
This podcast is licensed by SOCAN because we believe that artists should be paid for their work.